Hi everyone, welcome back once more to Max Easy Lessons. We are switching it up a bit. We have finished with Breath, Eyes, Memory for the moment, and we are going into Mark McWatt Ol Higue. Now, if you are new to my channel, go ahead, check out the other content that's there. There is content for The Tempest, there is content for Tijon and his brothers, there is content for the poetry, the short stories, and I think there is something about To Kill a Mockingbird. Yeah, go ahead, check out the playlists that are there for you. It is so much easier to click on a playlist because then you will see all of the videos that are associated with that particular section of your exam papers. If you are returning to my channel, thank you for staying here. It's Mark McWatt Ol Higue. If you are new, please hit the red button. Let me know what you think at the end of it. If there is any poem or short story that you want to get done first, all right, let me know. So this week is going to be hectic. Uploads will be coming rapidly at you. So guess what? Keep your bells on, keep your subscriptions on, and let's go. Mark McWatt Ol Higue. So we're going to start off with a reading of the poem Ol Higue. You think I like the stupidness? Gallivanting all night without skin, burning myself out like cane fire to frighten the foolish? And for what? A few drops of baby blood? You think I wouldn't rather take my blood seasoned in fat, black pudding like everyone else, and don't even talk about the pain of salt and having to bend these old bones down to count 1,000 grains of rice? If only babies didn't smell so nice. And if I could only stop hearing the soft call of that pure blood running in new veins, singing the sweet song of life, tempting an old dry-up woman who'd been holding her final note for years and years, afraid of the dying hum. Then again, if I didn't fly and come to that fresh pulse in the middle of the night, how would you, mother, name your ancient dread? And who to blame for the murder inside your head? Believe me, as long as it have been given women, as long as it have women giving birth, a poor old Higue like me can never dead. Now this is written by Mark McWatt. You can find it also in a copy of A World of Prose. Please note, people, that this poem is used in fair use of educational purposes, to teach and to help people to understand what comes up. So first of all, let's get into this. And this section is going to be this is going to be a bit lengthy because I'm going to give you a line-by-line analysis of Ol Higue before I get into anything else. The title Ol Higue, it's a superstition in Guyana and elsewhere in the Caribbean. It is that an old woman who is called an Ol Higue, or in Trinidad it's called a sukuyant. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. If not, people, please see with me. It's a sukuyant, and in some other islands aside from Trinidad they call it this. She strips off her skin late at night. And of course, she turns herself into a terrifying ball of fire, flies into houses where she sucks the blood of babies. The sickliness or death of a baby is often blamed on the Ol Higue in the culture. To get rid of the Ol Higue, one could rub salt into her skin that she has taken off, and this would cause her pain or even kill her. While at the same time, one could scatter rice grains at the window or the door, which might force her to remain there to count the grains until the sun rises. And of course, at this point, it will leave her without her skin. It's a folklore, yes. And modern day people perhaps would not be drawn into the idea of we would not be drawn into the idea of the Ol Higue. Yes, but in every Caribbean culture, in every West Indian culture, there is a folk tale, a folklore, something that we can relate to. And we are just simply looking at the Ol Higue of Guyana. The poem is done in a dramatic monologue, where the speaker is the mythical Ol Higue, and this speaker is talking to the readers. In line 2, gallivanting means that you are wandering all over the place. And the speaker speaks to burning myself out like cane fire. Well, it means that she is become a ball of fire. Seasoned in fat black pudding. Black pudding is a sausage that is popular in Guyana and some other Eastern Caribbean islands. In some countries, and in particular, it is made in Guyana, it is made from dried cow's blood and seasoned rice, which is stuffed into cows or pigs' intestines. Sound disgusting? No, it's not. It actually tastes good for some people. Now, the pain of salt in line 9 is important. We all know that if we get a cut and someone rubs salt into it, then it is going to be painful. So just imagine the Ol Higue whose skin is off. She is without skin. Picture yourself without skin. Yes, you'd have to be able to relate it to some Hollywood movies, right? All right, well, picture yourself without skin and someone putting salt in that skin and you having to put that skin back on just like an overall. Of course, that is going to burn and burn terribly. So the Ol Higue goes to line 12 now, and if only babies didn't smell so nice. This is a switch in what has been going on from the first stanza, and I'll get into the explanation of each stanza and the function of each stanza, all right? But for now, if only babies didn't smell so nice. A surprisingly tender comment, yes, it's tender. And it is coming from the creature who everyone thinks to be evil and everyone thinks to be cruel. And so coming from her, we get something else, right? Now in lines 14 to 16, the soft, soft call, which goes all the way down to Song of Life. If only, it starts with, and if I could only stop hearing the soft, soft call of that pure blood running in new veins, singing the sweet song of life. Yes, in section 2, stanza 2. Now this means that the Ol Higue hears or imagines that she hears the blood moving through the recently formed blood vessels of the baby. And this to her represents the source of life. Life is here, life is in this baby. And so based on what the folklore tells us, then she should be drawn to that life. Now we go on to line 17 to 19, when she says, tempting an old lady, an old dry-up woman who had been holding her final note for years and years, afraid of the dying hum. This means then that the new blood is a metaphoric song of life that becomes highly irresistible to the old dried up woman. And for these reasons, she has been hanging onto the final note of this metaphorical song, and she is afraid to let it fade into the hum. And this hum is related to death, that final moment of death. She is afraid there. Now, moving on to line 21, that fresh pulse, it means that we're talking about the baby's blood and the rhythmic flow of someone's blood, and in particular the baby. And remember now, she has to relate it to the baby because the folklore says that this woman, this mythical creature, goes after babies. Now, in lines 23, going on to the end of it, the speaker says, name your ancient dread. Name your ancient dread. That is in line 23. It means then that you have to find someone to blame for anything that goes wrong with the baby. The mothers throughout history in this culture, they have the fear that it is the Ol Higue who has done something to the child. Now, lines 24 to 25, who to blame? Who to blame? It starts with who to blame. And it goes on to inside your head. Now, what the speaker is saying, who is responsible for what is going on? Who do we hold responsible? For one, in the mother's mind, the mother blames the death of the baby on the Ol Higue. And for two, the deadly grief suffered by a stricken baby's mother is another of who is to be blamed. Believe me, in lines 26, this particularly short line introduces the crucial last two lines. Now, it suggests that even if we do not believe all the mythical stuff here in the first two sections, and this makes the last statement credible. In line 27, it have. Now, there are just one of the few dialectical expressions in the Caribbean, Creole, yes, and this is found mainly in Guyana. So we do know that the setting of the poem Ol Higue is actually in Guyana. And then she goes on to say, a poor Ol Higue like me. Of course, she draws sympathy. She knows she deserves pity, perhaps given the things that she's supposedly forced to endure, and of course the temptations too that she cannot resist. The fact that the baby's blood is there, is fresh blood, she cannot resist all of this. All of this comes into play, and the Ol Higue begins to feel that she deserves some form of pity, because people will always blame others for the misfortunes with the babies, and then you blame someone who is not totally responsible, and this gets you to thinking that the Ol Higue deserves some amount of pity. So now that we have finished analyzing the poem on a line-by-line basis, let us go into other aspects of the poem, and let's see if we can understand whatever else is happening here. The poem is structured as a dramatic monologue where there are three stanzas. The first stanza has to do with the beliefs of the Ol Higue, the explanation of the appeal to babies, and the third stanza is Ol Higue, who no longer feels the need to explain herself and her actions. At this point, she now blames women. Now, when we talk about a dramatic monologue, it is where one person is speaking, but at the same time, we sense the presence of somebody else who is actually listening, but not necessarily talking to the persona. Ol Higue's monologue falls into 3 stanzas, as we said, and the poet uses free verse and a conversational tone. Appropriately, Ol Higue speaks in Creole, which is suitable for the Guyanese culture. There are some rhyming words: rice and nice, hum and come, dread, head, and dead. These rhymes are used effectively to highlight the themes in the poem. To Ol Higue, rice is nice, and she will come with a hum. More seriously, the dread that a woman has in her head is that her baby might be dead. Now, stanza 1 relates to the beliefs that surrounds the story of Ol Higue. The way she comes out of her skin and becomes a ball of fire and drinks baby's blood. She refers to the salt and rice that people sprinkle to keep her from harming the baby. In stanza 2, she explains the appeal of newborn babies, their sweet smell, the pure blood that runs through their veins, and of course at this point we understand that there is regret. Ol Higue regrets the fact that she is so old, and she is jealous of the sweet song of life that she hears from the young. And finally, in stanza 3, Ol Higue no longer wants to defend her own actions, and at this point she starts to accuse women. She says they blame Ol Higue because they are afraid to admit to the murderous thoughts in their own heads. In this situation, the poet is actually bringing Ol Higue to a point where she says that she's not the person who is to be blamed for what is happening to these women and their babies. The fact is that women have their own murderous thoughts. They project their guilt onto her, Ol Higue, because every mother takes with her an ancient dread. The dread or the fear is that she will find that her baby is dead in the cradle, and perhaps because the mother herself fears getting old, and therefore she has murder inside her head. For as much as a mother loves her baby, there will be those moments, and what we call postpartum, right? There will be those moments when murderous thoughts will enter a mother's head, even though she loves her baby, So, Ol Higue concludes, once there are women giving birth to babies and realizing as they do that they themselves are getting old and that this new baby has taken away the beauty and the youth of these women. And of course, these mothers have to protect the image that is projecting in their mind, the bad thoughts that are coming out onto someone else. And of course, she asks, who better than the Ol Higue? The poetic devices used in the poem are very simple. There is allusion, there is rhetorical questions, and then there is the use of language, which is the Creole. The allusion to Caribbean folklore. McWatt is discussing psychological aspects of the lives of women in the society. The mother is always expected only to show love and patience to any newborn baby. But when a mother becomes sleep deprived, and when a baby continues to cry and does not sleep, the thoughts of the mother can become murderous. Sadly, but true. Because the mother is unable to admit even to herself that this is so, she creates an image in her mind of someone who will kill the babies. And this image is Ol Higue. This is a psychological reality that we all project our negative characteristics onto others so that we ourselves can appear to be good and virtuous. Now, in using the folk figure this way, Mark McWatt helps the readers to understand something about the self, but he does this in a playful way. He touches on a topic that many women will endure, because women do go through postpartum depression, the psychological reality and the psychological acceptance that the baby does not sleep, and so it takes its toll on the mother. And of course, in order to remove any negative thoughts from the mother, what happens is that the mother creates a folklore. Then we have the rhetorical questions. Now, these questions are asked in a conversational tone, and the reader sees that Ol Higue uses this to help to bring the reader into her thoughts. And of course, she invites a response that is not going to come. Now, the use of Creole is important. It's a Caribbean story. It's a Caribbean folklore, the West Indian folklore. And the poem makes use of Creole. It is effective because, of course, Ol Higue is a folk figure. The Creole, as a language, the Creole adds humor at the beginning of this poem in particular, and Creole adds humor just about everywhere it is used. The expressions also add realism, and furthermore provides an underscore for the serious concerns that the poet has brought to our attention. The tone is what we will do next. The tone in the poem shifts. In stanza 1, there is a playful tone. In stanza 2, it becomes a bit more serious. And in stanza 3, it is more thoughtful as Ol Higue reflects on what is happening to her. And of course, it becomes serious. Ol Higue can be asking in a playful, teasing way, "You think I wanted to take my blood seasoned in fat black pudding?" No, this is supposed to be funny. It's a serious tone, yes, but at the same time, it brings across some amount of humor. In the final stanza, the language includes words like middle of the night, ancient dread, blame, and murder, creating a more solemn tone for us. In fact, it's more dark and serious than one would have expected from stanzas 1 and 2. The mood in the poem, at first, the tone adopted by Ol Higue affects the mood of the reader. At first, we find it funny, because Ol Higue gives a cheeky presentation of herself. She makes light of what people think of her. But as she grows, the accusations become more, and we are left with in a more thoughtful and serious mood, asking ourselves whether there is any truth in what the claims that are made against Ol Higue and the claims that Ol Higue herself has made. Now, the message that the poet wants to bring across is that humans have the need to project their feelings. And when they project their feelings and the wicked thoughts that they may have, they put these onto others. The fact is that humans are not likely to take responsibility for their own actions, and as such, they try to bring others into the fold. So, in other words, this means that McWatt is trying to tell us that people will blame others for their shortcomings, for the challenges that they have. And it is easier to blame others than to take responsibility or blame for themselves. So here goes for Ol Higue, Mark McWatt. More poetry will come. And of course, towards the end of all of these presentations of the C-set pieces, I am hoping to bring across questions where we will just go through, give you some pointers on how to answer the questions and stuff. Thank you so much for stopping by. Please let me know which poems that you would like to see first, or which short stories, but eventually we will get to all of them. But if there's a pressing need for a short story or a poem, please let me know. Again, go ahead, check out the playlists that are on the front page of the channel, and you will be directed to some notes that is hoped will help you.